This video started out with a simple concept. I took a picture with this camera and I thought, hey, I wonder what it would look like going back in time. Could I match this camera back, say like 5 years, or how much better would it look in the future? And that quickly ballooned into a 92 camera comparison. So when I took the picture with this camera, it was cold and rainy, and there's not too many days like that I can get this picture. It's a 20-minute walk for me, and each one of these cameras, I walked out there, took the picture with the framing that I thought that I had with this, and then came back, which gives an interesting perspective on the handling of each of these cameras, but none of them are in the same lighting, which I think is a benefit here, because I can't match this, and all of the cameras are going to be different lighting, different times of day. They have as close of the same lenses I can use. If I can use a Sigma Art on it, I will. If not, I'll use the next best lens that I have, and in some of the odder cases, I'll use a cheaper lens. You know, I went in with my own biases, and I came out without a lot of biases, but just thinking they're all tools. You go from here all the way up to the latest version of the Campsnap, and we go all the way back in time to Ricoh's first digital camera in 1995. Now with this, there's a bunch of cameras that I missed out on. I had about 10 cameras die in the middle of this. Some of them I bought others too. Other ones, they just can't be replaced. Like the professional cameras from the 90s, I had 3 Kodak DCS cameras. One basically caught on fire with one of the voltage regulators. One takes dead images, and then the other one had the CPU board die. So I don't have any real great professional cameras until the Nikon D1, which I think would have changed how far I could go back and get awesome images. But overall, these are 92 very different cameras, and I haven't seen anything like this done before. So this is a very long, boring video, and if you enjoy the thought of experiment of it, maybe you can skip ahead through some of the images, or go through and look for the camera that you find interesting, and let me know. I do plan to add more, and I do have a sequel to this in mind, where I add pictures from another nearby target, which is another building, in different lighting with brick. So I'll get that done quicker depending on if people like this video, but I hope you can find some enjoyment out of this, and we'll come back and discuss at the end. I've tried to match these as much as I can with as much range as possible with these cameras. This is the 1995 Ricoh RDC-1, their first digital camera, and it doesn't have very much resolution. I've tried to upscale it. You can see the blown out highlights here. It does have, you know, for as intense as this scene is with morning light, it is actually capturing quite a bit of detail here that you wouldn't really expect for how old this is. But overall, no, it's not usable or not useful in 2025, but for the time it was pretty amazing. If we go to 1996, we get the Kodak DC120. I believe this is the first, or one of the first, to actually use compact flash cards. In the center here, I've tried to fix it, but there seems to be an internal reflection that seems to pop out and sort of lose contrast. I'm not sure if that's just my copy or all copies. Again, this is very low resolution. You can see we've tried to scale it up, tried to get more color out of it. It's white balance. You know, if you shrink it down far enough, this isn't that horrible of an image, but definitely it would have looked nice on the internet in 1996 with a, you know, dial-up, but in 2025, still pretty much unusable. 1997, we go to the Olympus D600L, and this is an SLR, so you're actually looking through the viewfinder down through the lens, which is pretty cool with a small sensor. And the colors are pretty exaggerated here, but we're starting to see actual improvements. We're actually starting to see more detail. This is still 1997. We're pre-Windows 98. So anyone using the highest quality from this camera would have been having a hard time editing these photos, but actually not a bad job. It's almost at the point that it's usable and almost at the point that it's got enough detail to be upscaled, but doesn't quite hit it yet. The other camera I have from 1997 is the Epson 600. This camera is very strange looking. It looks like a video camera that takes still images. What you can see here in the trees and the way the image is captured on this CCD, it's a very strange, low quality image. It's absolutely worse than the Olympus, but if we look at it, there might be some kind of lo-fi use for this in 2025, I don't know, but that's what the Epson 600 looks like. Okay, we move on to 1998. This is the Nikon E900. It's one of those little split cameras that Nikon made. This is the first one that they made. Actually, we're starting to get useful here. And start to see some of the flowers in the trees. It does capture, doesn't really blow out here in the morning sun. You know, you can see the detail and tiles on the roof. It's not a super pretty image, but it does get the job done, and it's again almost usable in the right context here. You can probably post images from this on Instagram and get okay results. Also in 1998, Canon released the Pro 70. As you can see, this is a major step up in resolution, and really here it's pretty impressive for this little camera. Quite a bit of lost color detail. I don't think you can pull that back. It does capture dynamic range without blowing out here in the morning sun. It's going to need a little bit more editing help to be really what you want in 2025, but for 1998, super impressive. Okay, we go to Olympus's next DSLR camera. It's not, the lens isn't removable. You're still looking through the lens here, which is very interesting. But this image is actually pretty nice. Yes, it's low res, and this is as much detail as you can get out of it, but it's starting to look more modern here. The highlights here in the lawn, it does help that this was an overcast day, but this has enough detail in it. You could say, oh, this is a little snapshot cam. And this is pretty much, we'll get to this at the very end, but this is about as close as the Campsnap is in 2025. If you were looking for a vintage, real version of how to get those types of images, this kind of has almost the real resolution of a Campsnap. So, but I actually like the images from this better than the Campsnap. You can see there's not too much CA in the lens. Not a whole lot of color detail here again, but the images are actually useful here for 1999. And we move into a whole another level here with the Nikon D1. So this is the first old DSLR that I have that didn't die or try to catch on fire. It was broken and I fixed it, and I'm very happy that I did, because the images from this are fantastic. You take the raw files in 2025 and really you can get a very modern looking image here. I don't know if you're watching this to try to get a modern image, but looking here, it looks great. There's lots of modern cameras or small point and shoots that wouldn't be able to get even this quality really. So I'm really happy with the D1. It's an odd experience. It has a terrible menu system, but in terms of quality, it's through the roof here. It's pretty amazing. And I'm using, you know, I have the ability to choose my own lens here, so I'm using an nice Sigma, and most of these I'm using on the crop sensors, I'm using the Sigma Art 18-35. On the full frame, I try to use the Sigma 24-105 Art. On the Canons, I don't have a Nikon version of that. Again though, just the detail here that you have from a clean lens and clean image, you can upscale this and get very close to a modern looking image. Okay, this was Sony's last digital Mavica that only shot on floppy disks. So you can see here we took a major nosedive down. Just look back on this to what's equivalent to like 1997. So we're in 1999, and the FD91 here is pretty awful. But if you wanted that distinct look of shooting on a floppy drive camera, this definitely has its own distinct look. It's just, it's pretty much garbage, but you know, if you make the image small enough, you could use it for something. We're moving on to the 2000s now. We have the Nikon 990, and there's an improvement in resolution here. I mean, we're seeing a major downgrade, being a small point and shoot compared to the D1, but yeah, we're seeing improvements here on the smaller cameras. Not really something I'd want to use today, but hey, there you go. Okay, this is a very interesting camera. So this is Canon's first, it's like consumer DSLR that wasn't a partnership with Kodak. This is the D30. The image isn't as nice as the D1. It's also it's a CMOS. It has some very interesting image qualities to it with the way that it processes highlights. As you can see here, the color depth, at least here, isn't the greatest. Have other samples that'll show in another video, a sequel to this, where it does very interesting things the way that it rolls out to highlights. And you know, going back and forth, one of the points of this was to see the differences between CMOS and CCD, and really there's no super color difference. I mean, that's the color filter in front, but there is highlight rolling off differences in the compression of the shadows and highlights. So this is an interesting experimental camera. It's not something I really enjoy using. It seems kind of like a cheap plasticky body, and it seems kind of delicate the way that it can be used. But it absolutely can provide you with modern looking images if you process them correctly. Okay, this is one of Olympus's last versions of the idea of a fixed lens SLR. This is the E-10, and you know, I actually found it a little bit disappointing coming from the other cameras. It could be the smaller sensor, but the color depth on the images I get from this camera aren't the best. It's not my favorite camera. It's designed really well. I really like holding and shooting this camera, but yeah, it's not the best. I mean, it's average. I wouldn't consider this over some of the other options here. So a lot of these are cheap. This is cheap as well, but this is what it looks like. Get to another interesting camera here. I had 3 of these. All 3 came broken and I fixed them. They use 3 different types of batteries. You know, I get a lot of washed out images on these, which I could probably fix. So takes Nikon lenses with a Fuji sensor. I forget, is it like an N60 body? It looks different though. So one benefit here, I like this over the D30, not for the battery situation on the D30 is way better. But I do kind of like the images on this a bit better due to the sensor. But this isn't Fuji's best. It's an interesting experiment if you want a camera from the year 2000 with what Fuji was doing at the time. Okay, I believe this is also the Pentax EL2000. This is a rangefinder styled SLR. I was hoping for a lot more from this. The colors are Foveon style punchy, but overall the image quality isn't great. My version's the HP PhotoSmart C912. I love the design, except for the lens having an electronic zoom. But I wish this design was used more because I love the rangefinder style. It's a rangefinder SLR. This is one of the very few fixed lens cameras like this. It's too bad it didn't take off because I would have loved to see more cameras with this type of cell interface, and I love the chunkiness of the camera. It's very nice. It's just the images aren't super pleasing. So maybe I'll get another copy of this in the future and try again, but I don't see any real lens issues here. I think it's just the processing of the camera that is not to my liking. Okay, this is the Canon 1D. As you can see here, we took another leap up in quality. This is an APS-H, so almost full frame. I prefer this as a 1.3 crop. So you can use your crop sensor lenses, usually at a slightly extended focal length, and also use full frame lenses. And it's a nice crop that allows more lens flexibility while still providing a fairly large sensor area. This is the only APS-H CCD sensor from Canon, so everything beyond this is CMOS, or this is the last one. Whether or not that makes a huge difference here, up to you. I mean, again, I think it's just color filter, but I don't see a huge CCD difference. These are kind of a pain to clean the sensor on, and the glass in front can kind of scratch easily, which I've done, unfortunately, and why I have two of these. But outside of the batteries being terrible, these take wonderful images, and it does have a bit of magic that some of the other cameras don't have. So I'm a big fan of the original 1D. I wouldn't recommend it for purchase just because of the battery situation, number one. And yeah, if something breaks, you're going to be buying spare parts and no one's going to service it for you. So moving on, we have the Nikon Coolpix 5000, and we see a nice increase here in quality from, I believe this is the same engine as the 995 Coolpix, but it's in a more standardized format. I like the image here. It's nice and clean. It's vintage, but could still pass for modern. The flash is going to be nice. This is a nice camera, except for the kind of, again, terrible battery situation. I think you can get rechargeables for it, but yeah, I like this camera. I could see people liking this as much as some of the other classics from this era. Overall, a solid performer. We moved to the D1X, which has a different configuration of the D1 for higher resolution, and you can definitely see higher resolution here. Also, again, a CCD. Overall, a very nice image. With modern processing, I don't really see a huge difference between the D1 and the D1X. So between the two, if you're going to get one, first don't, because the batteries are the old nickel metal hydride. They're a pain to get, and people will tell you to open them up, cut them open, and mod them with lithium batteries, but okay, it's easier just to probably get a different camera. But you can see it here. The resolution is nearly enough for modern standards. Dynamic range is nice. Colors are nice. overall a pleasant camera and a much better menu system over the original D1. This is a super classic. This is the PowerShot G2. So if you want a vintage camera that's easy to use, it's got a flippy screen, nice and chunky, ultra reliable, this is the camera for you. It has classic Canon colors. It takes raw images. It can take decently sized compact flash cards, and overall just gives a really nice image. Moving on, we have the Panasonic Leica combination of the Digilux 1 and the LC5. I have both cameras. They're exactly the same. The LC5 has better ergonomics. The Digilux 1 is like holding a giant bar of soap. So if you're choosing between the two, I would get the LC5, though they're very hard to find. Overall, though, the image quality is just okay. It's not a huge leap here. It's kind of clunky to use. You could process the images to get better results than this. It's definitely going to give you a vintage vibe. I just don't find, I find the colors a little bit lacking on this one, but again, it's totally fine, and the lens is pretty decent on this. And we move on to one of my absolute favorites, and this, I wasn't expecting it to be. This is the Canon 1DS, and this again is CMOS. It's very old CMOS, but it's still CMOS. I think this has different colors than a modern camera, but you can see the resolution here is insane. It's a beautiful image, and dynamic range is great. It has a different kind of vibe to a modern image as well. There's something kind of magical about this camera. It still uses the same horrible batteries, so I wouldn't have a hard time recommending it just because of that, but the image quality here is fantastic. It's absolutely enough for anyone for almost any purpose with modern processing tools. It's, I believe, 11 megapixels, so it looks great. You really can't ask for much more than this. We move from there to the upgrade of the D30, which is the Canon D60. This one could be a little darker in the way I exposed it, but you can see here it has a ton of detail saved. So in the highlights and in the shadows, very, very impressive. Colors are also great. This one also has some very interesting ways that it blows out, which I don't find on any modern cameras. So I actually really like this camera. I love the battery that it uses. They're easy to replace. I would recommend these cameras because it seems to be rugged, easy to use. It still works with all the modern-ish EF lenses, and has a nice little blue black light on the backlight on the top LCD. So I really do like this camera. I would recommend this one a lot if you want an old DSLR. This was my dad's first digital camera that I used for this. I was actually expecting it to be a bit worse, but you can see different time of day, and again, these are all different times of day. I'm taking them out one by one, taking a shot, thinking it looks the same, and then bringing it back. You can see the sun here. It's nice though. This feels old. It feels older than 2002, but at the same time, it doesn't look bad. So I can't recommend this over the other cameras, but if you got one for free, you could get some really cool images out of this. Though I just wish it had more pop in the color detail that it had. But it's impressive that it handled this dynamic range with the sun directly in the image. From there we move to the Nikon D100, and here I kind of processed it a little bit flat, but it's impressive here how close it is to the D1. It's not as good as the D1, but you have a much easier to use battery. So I do have had some issues with, I have two of these. One of these had a messed up shutter. They don't seem to be built ultra well, as well as like the professional D1s, D1Xs, but they probably will get the job done for you. The D200 is definitely built better, but this does get the job done and provides pretty decent images. Okay, we go basically the same body as the D100. No, this is still the same body as the Fuji S1 Pro. So it's still the old Nikon film body, but this time we only have two types of batteries and we don't have the other backup battery, and the sensor is much better, I think. So there is some Fuji magic in this, as you can see in the blues in the skies. I found these older Fuji cameras have some different processing going on with the blue, and it really makes it pop. I really like the old Fuji sensors, and I don't know if that's a CCD thing. They call them super CCDs, but this is a great image, and this is not an image that you'd get from a modern camera. And in some ways, I think it's better. So I'm a big fan of the S2 Pro. It looks great. The camera is going to be a little bit flaky, so if you want one, I would buy two bodies and expect one of them probably to have some issues, and you might need to work on fixing some of those issues at some point. But great images out of this camera. Okay, I was expecting much better out of this, but this is a Panasonic Super Zoom FZ1. I was so disappointed with this, and it could just be the one that I have, but this whole left side of the image at any focal range is just kind of a blurry mess here, and it's just gross. And I was expecting so much more from a Panasonic. There's no detail here. The colors are just JPEG-y, and like the old JPEGs, just gross. I don't know why people like them. If you have a RAW file, you can get so much more out of them, even out of an old camera. This is a big no, unless I just have a bad copy. I even forced the FZ2 firmware on here. Still awful. I would not recommend this camera, which, and as someone that is a Panasonic fan, makes me very sad. Okay. For this, I got the Sigma SD9. I've always wanted a Foveon camera. I've never had a Foveon camera, and this did not disappoint. You cannot get this image with any other camera. These cameras are very weird to use because of the way that they just, like, blue can blow out, or red or green can blow out. But this sunset image here, the way that this is captured, no other camera here could do the same. The lens that I could be using, I could get better results, but you're stuck with the Sigma SA lenses, and so the ones that I have aren't that great, and the image kind of falters for it. But the camera itself, wow, it's just, I really enjoy using this camera too. So it's slow and steady, and the images, you don't really know what you're going to get when you get an image like this, as there's none that have been taken in the late afternoon. There's one other camera that's another one of my favorites that we'll get to that did a great job, but it didn't produce a result like this. So I was super impressed. It was my hero, you know, a Foveon sensor. I really wanted one forever, and finally got one, and I was super impressed. I wish I had some of the newer ones here, but the first one for 2002, this is an awesome camera, and they can be had cheap. I would definitely recommend this over, if you want a different looking image than anything else, this is a different looking image. This is a different type of sensor, and this will give you different types of colors. Now, you probably get a lot of messed up images, but hey, you're actually getting something different here. This is a completely different type of look than any other type of sensor will give you. This camera I got out of a bargain bin. I was actually not even expecting it to work. It was like $10, and you know what, for a little throwaway camera, it gives interesting results. I'm not sure what I can say here that, I mean, it's not great in any form, but it does have its own unique sharp look. So this is the Sharp VE CG30U. I don't see anyone ever talking about these, probably because there's no real standout features, but hey, look at that. There's an image. Okay. This is the Olympus 5060, and Olympus is really, really cooking here. I enjoy the images that come out of this probably more than any other little digital camera that I have. The lens on this is absolutely phenomenal, and it's better than the sequel, the 8080, which I got after this because I thought, oh, that's got to be better because it's got more megapixels. No, I think this one's the magic one. And I mean, there's a few in this range and a few in these years, but my 5060, some of the best images I've gotten out of an old vintage digital camera. So I love the way that it renders the sun. I love the way the sensor provides color. There's just enough detail here to use for upscaling. It's fantastic in every single way. I love the size. I love using it. I highly recommend this camera. Absolutely one of my favorites. I love the way that this is rendered with the sun here. It's phenomenal. Okay. With that, I went kind of on an Olympus spree trying to find, is everything just as magical? And this is their first changeable lens DSLR. This is the E1. And I would say that there is actually something here magical with the colors. I would say that they do pop more than some of the other cameras. It has a very pleasing rendering. Whether or not that's worth the price, probably not. If it was cheap, like the 5060 you probably have for $20, $30, and someone's going to charge you like $200 with a good lens for the E1. So I don't know. And this is shot with the 25mm 2.8, which are also fairly hard to get, and it's not that great of a lens. It's totally fine, but the way that it's hyped up could be my old copy of it. It's just okay. So I'm sure there's a bunch of better lenses for original 4/3, but this one's just okay. The colors here though, and the rendering, very nice, very pleasant. Absolutely can compete with modern cameras with if you use modern upscaling techniques. You totally can't tell. It's a vintage camera that looks awesome. This is the tiny little Fuji F700. This is during the period when the sensors would die in these cameras, but this camera takes the Fuji Super CCD concept and it really pushes blue and green a lot. Like it's kind of insane how much it pushes blue and green. This doesn't, I didn't add any additional color here. I didn't punch up the saturation. It's just the way that it came out of this tiny camera. So you can get some very interesting different images out of this camera. They're probably not gonna work. Or you could get one and the sensor could die right away. So I wouldn't pay more than 20 bucks for one, but hey, it uses the XD cards. It has a weird charging solution. It's a pain to use, but it's a tiny, cool little camera that provides nice images. So I like this, but I can't recommend it. This is a Sony F818, and I was trying to get some infrared in here. As far as the old Sony CCDs, this is closest to having the type of color that I would want or expect. I think there's some actual infrared coming through here because there's a whole lot of blue that I wasn't expecting, like in the ground here. But this is without the infrared hack. A lot of detail. It's a fun camera to use. It's built well. I enjoy it. And the next picture here is in full infrared, so if you use the infrared hack, I would recommend this for infrared, just because this is one of the ones that you can shoot and actually get in focus with it being in infrared mode. The other ones, when the filter goes away, you can't actually focus at a lot of different focal ranges, and I've tested that. But yeah, this is a cool camera. Not my favorite for rendering, but for infrared, totally would recommend it. This is the Canon G5. It's definitely better than the G2, but I mean, I think they're pretty interchangeable. It's slightly better image quality. I enjoy the just using it as the same form factor as the G2. The colors, resolution are great. It's overall a classic camera, and they can be cheap, so probably anywhere under $50. Battery's super easy to find. It uses a standard compact flash card. We move on to the sequel of the 5060. I think there's one in between, but this is like the highest end of the Olympus point and shoot cameras of this range. So this is the 8080. So it's 8 megapixels instead of 5, and it's very nice. The lens is very nice. I just don't think it has as much pop as the 5060. It's a great choice, and I don't think you can go wrong here with either one, but I would choose the 5060 over the 8080. It's small. The 5060 is smaller, and I think the 5060 actually has a slightly better lens than the 8080, but that could be my bias from the only 2 copies that I have of either one. So very similar image though, very similar colors. It's just more detail in the 8080. This is a very strange camera. The Casio X-Slim P600, it has a matrix style early 2000s UI that you can use, which is super cool. It has this very weird RAW mode, which I put this in to get this image. So the RAW mode doesn't have like a profile baked in with it, I think. So it's the camera sensor RAW mode. Anyway, you get an image out of it that looks completely different. So I enjoyed using this. It's a fun curiosity. Better than average in most ways, and has quite a bit of detail for a small tiny cam. Also pretty decent highlights here with the RAW files. The JPEGs are different. The JPEGs look like a normal camera, but the RAWs are very different than what you'd normally see. So I'd also put this as a recommended fun little camera. This is the Olympus E300. Yeah, this I put on the top 28mm lens, but this is actually the 25-2.8. Definitely see some CA with that. I think it's slightly better than the E1 in different ways. I enjoy the form factor. The colors are great. It's very comparable with the E1 though. They're very slight differences. I think you could intercut them together and they would look almost exactly the same. But the E1 definitely, you could have an ergonomic preference for that. I like the rangefinder style of this, and I wish they still had rangefinder styled removable lens SLRs, because that's super cool. But these are renowned for their color rendition, and I mean, yeah, the colors are good, but you know, I don't see a huge difference from this and the older CMOS sensors, so maybe that's just me. This is my first personal digital camera that I got in 2004, 2005. It was dropped and returned to Staples, and I got it for like $100. So I had video cameras, but no still cameras, and I used this and got a lot of great images out of it. It's JPEG only, and you can definitely see that cuts down the detail a lot. There's nothing special about this camera. It's just a regular digicam from the mid-2000s, and there are worse options, but there are much better options. So unless like free or under $10, or you have some specific reason to have one, I wouldn't say there's a benefit to this camera. This is a camera I love. This is the Konica Minolta Damage A2. You can see we took a huge jump in quality here from the DX7590, and the detail here is fantastic. The highlight handling is fantastic. The control and size of the camera, I love. This is a great camera, super highly recommended. It reminds me a lot in the colors of the Olympus cameras too, so yeah, just a fantastic little camera that I can't recommend enough. And it's built like a tank, so love this camera. Okay, we move on to the Nikon D2X, and again here we move to CMOS, and can anybody really tell a difference? There's a slight difference in color rendering, but there's lots of detail here. We're still a crop sensor, so I don't know, there's a little bit more mojo in this than there is in some of the later Nikon cameras, I think. Maybe it's me, maybe I'm losing my mind from a million cameras, but yeah. I like the images out of this, and they are different than other cameras. So the highlight rendering here, very good for harsh morning sunlight, and the batteries are finally improved. We finally have lithium ion options, so this is a better option for actually using over the D1. So if you're a CCD fanatic, then you won't have that, but you also usually have cheaper prices on these. Great professional camera. It'd been cool if this was actually a full frame. I think that would have made a big difference here. But yeah, this is a good camera, and slightly different rendering than the other Nikons, newer or older. Okay, this is the Fuji S3 Pro. I wish I had the S5 Pro. It's supposed to have the same sensor, but being in the D200 body, this is in the D100 body. This Super CCD definitely has a different look than the other ones. You got the CCD, well, no, actually you have more of a CMOS look in the highlight rendition here. I don't know, it's a weird, it's definitely different. I love the color though of this. This is fantastic. And I don't think any other camera would have rendered this the same way. So there's something definitely happening with the Fuji cameras. It pushes more into the blue on the white of the house here, and the green really pops, and the orange in the sky pops. These cameras seem to work pretty well. I love mine. If you can get an S5 Pro, it's probably going to be more reliable. I don't have one, but it should be the same image quality. Also, the shadow rendering here, very good for the type of contrast we're talking about. So I've gotten some amazing images out of this camera. It's great, highly recommended. This is the Sony V3. This really pushes into the era when people didn't like Sony colors, and you can see that here in the way that the green blows out in a very strange way. The colors here, just like in the trees, very odd how it blows out. I got this because I wanted to try the IR hack on it. It's small. I'm not a huge fan of it. It's interesting for testing because it's different, but at the same time, it's not something I would use for anything else but test, just because I don't see any appeal here in the images. So this is the 2004 PowerShot Pro. And the claim to fame with this was it's supposed to be a bridge camera with an L lens, and okay. You don't really see, I didn't see in mine a benefit to that. It just looks like a regular old bridge camera. I didn't see any magic really in the lens. It does have nice rendering, but I don't think it's any better than the PowerShots that were before it. So like the PowerShot G2 or G5. Yeah, it has more resolution, but this can take bigger cards, so it's a little easier to use. Uses the same type of batteries. It's bulkier though in a different type of way. I like this camera. It's not the best at anything, and I think it's marketed a little bit silly with having a red band as in having an L lens on a Digicam. We pop into amazing zone here. This is the Canon 5D Classic, and it's overcast here, but everything's amazing here. The colors, the rendering of highlights, like this is perfect. You don't need any more detail than this. You don't need, I mean, this is basically a perfect camera. So for taking images, it's the Classic. It renders different. It renders like an older camera. I don't know what I can say that other people haven't said about this camera. I wasn't disappointed. It reminds me of everything I love about the original 1DS, but in a package that uses the PowerShot G2 and up battery, or PowerShot G1 and up batteries. Small, excellent quality. Yeah, 100%. You want a classic camera, and you have Canon lenses, this is what you want. This is an awesome camera. And going next right into the other, like the CCD option. So the 5D CMOS, and then we go to the CCD option, which is the crop sensor D200, which people love, and the prices have gone up a little bit more on these. The color rendering is very nice. The highlight handling and shadow handling looks very CCD, except high resolution. The images do look great. It's going to give you a different field of view than the 5D Classic. I prefer the 5D Classic between the two. So, and I don't see a huge CCD versus CMOS that can't be edited there. So it is a very nice CCD. It's one of the best. It's going to give you that look, and hey, if it makes you feel better to have a CCD, then get the D200. I think they're just a little bit more expensive than the 5DCs at this point. So, yeah. We move on to the FZ30 from Panasonic. I was feeling really awful about how that FZ1 was, and I was like, I can't be a Panasonic fan of any kind if that's how the FZs are. And I got the FZ30, and it awesome. So we got the detail here. We have finally like super classic Panasonic controls, like you'd expect, and the quality you would expect out of a camera. This looks awesome. So 2005 FZ30. These are cheap, reliable, and you'll have to use smaller SD cards in them still, but it's everything you'd expect a high quality Panasonic to be. And the lens lives up to the actual Leica name now. So yeah, big fan. And you have the optical image stabilization. So this is a great all-in-one bridge camera. This is the 2005 Konica Minolta 5D. Another camera that's loved for its colors. You do see a different type of rendering here. It's very harsh lighting. It does a good job. These cameras have issues, so I think you'd be better off with the D200, but hey, we go back to the 5D. Overall, very nice, and it has in-body stabilization, so one of the first SLR series to have that. Yeah, overall, very nice image quality. The lenses are going to be easier to get with Nikons or Canons, but that could just be my ignorance. This is a very nice camera, though, so as long as you don't get one that's faulty and you get one that's cheap enough, it's a fun camera to mess around with. We go to the Sony R1, and this is a very sharp camera for 2005, but again, the same problem with the highlights here in the green, just weird. It blows out weird, blows out what, people complain about from Sony, just on the trees here, just very, very strange. In a stress situation, I'm sure if you controlled the lights more, you would get something different, but yeah, it's sharp, but I do not like the rendering of color on this camera at all. We go to the Canon 1D Mark II. This is CMOS now, but fantastic image quality on this, like nearly up there with the the 1DS. I can't believe it can hold the highlights and the shadows like that, and the way that it blows out here in the sky, fantastic. Yeah, it's a fun experimental camera, not one that you'd probably recommend for today. Just the size and bulk probably aren't worth it, especially compared to the 5D Classic. But hey, if you get one cheap and want to play with it, yeah. Panasonic L1. This is my favorite black and white camera. I could shot it in color here. It uses the rangefinder style SLR. Absolutely fantastic 4/3 camera, and it was also the Leica Digilux 3. I love this camera, and it has the flash. It pops up in 2 different settings. I highly recommend this just for its black and white profile alone, but it's a fun camera to use if you have 4/3 lenses. Move on to the Pentax K10. This is a great competitor to the D200. So if you have Pentax lenses, you probably would go with this instead of the D200. It's very similar to the D200. I think the sensor is a very similar. So Nikon lenses, I have a ton of those. I don't have a ton of Pentax lenses, but wow, the image quality very similar to the D200, and it has in-body stabilization. Another highly recommended camera. This is the Sony H9. This is the last of their bridge cameras that had night shot, so I put a nice thick infrared filter on it and shot just infrared alone because there's nothing outstanding about the camera. I wish that there was a guy before that I saw that was doing firmware hacks on it. I tried messaging him. I didn't get a response. I would love to see what RAW from this camera could do, especially if you do RAW and then hack the infrared to be off, because it doesn't work with a magnet. So you might get a lot more power out of this, but a thick infrared filter and shooting gives nice high resolution results. An interesting experiment. There's better cameras overall, unless you're gonna get this for like 10 bucks. Move to the Ricoh GX100. I wanted to love this camera, but it has huge image spots from dust spots that are unremovable. I'm able to remove them from almost any other camera, but the way the dust spots work on the GX100, they're impossible to get out. Very disappointing, but a very nice image quality, small, compact. There's a lot of things to love about the GX100, but I do not recommend it just for the lens dust issue alone. Huge problem. Move on to the Fuji S100 FS. This is a 2/3 inch sensor, and their last one that had a CCD. So I got this specifically. It's a bridge camera. Before they went to the EXR CMOS, and yeah, the image quality is great. This is the Fuji said they're overall pretty amazing in this series. So this is a bridge camera. They're not worth a lot. These are kind of harder to get, but yeah, the image quality is fantastic. I love the way that it renders colors. It has great quality throughout the range. You want an all-in-one, and you want it to be a vintage camera. Well, it's hard to go wrong with the S100 FS. Go to the Nikon D700. So this is the same. Nikon finally goes full frame, and it's the same sensor as the D3, and it's totally fine here. It handles everything like you would imagine a modern camera would. So it's hard to fault it. It's handling highlights. It's handling the image looks like a modern camera at this point, so there's nothing super exciting happening, but the full frame Nikons for some reason hold their value more than the older 5Ds. Maybe there's less of them that were made, but I mean, if you have Nikon lenses, you're going to get this. If you have Canon lenses, you're going to get the Canon. I don't have any problems with this. It's a great camera, great image quality, just there's really nothing super exciting here. This is the image that got this whole thing started. So this was the Canon SD1100. No, this isn't the image that got it all started. This is the second image I took that was in that same kind of situation. This camera is weird. It's tiny. It takes okay pictures, but they're gonna look very Digicam-ish. So I know the cameras go for quite a bit of money, especially the SD1000. Yeah, it takes a lot of processing to get the most out of them. They're not going to be super sharp, but you can throw it in your pocket and get that vintage Digicam style. I think the image looks great, just not a lot of detail. This is the PowerShot G10. This camera had high resolution, but it definitely lost something else. It doesn't have the same magic anymore, and I don't know if something happened in 2008 with color science, but it's just okay. So these are another highly sought after camera, like the G9, G11, and G12, but I mean, there are better options. This is totally fine though, totally fine, but not worth the inflated price. This is a Canon 7D. So I had one of these, I got another one. I was shocked by how good this image looks. So it basically is fully modern at this point. 2009, 18 megapixels, and then with upscaling and a nice Sigma art lens. This, like, the detail here is just insane. Like, look at this, the rendering's perfect, everything's perfect, and it still has a pop to it. So there's something magical about the 7D, and there's the EOS M has a similar crop sensor. There's something magical about these sensors that I'd forgotten about. And it's not quite Fuji-ish, but there's something about the red that really pops out here that I like. So the Canon 7D, you can get them cheap. Highly recommended. And this one also shoots 1080p video now. I believe this is the first in our list to actually shoot full HD video. The video is the same as the 5D Mark II, except now that you get a slow motion 720p mode. This is the Nikon D300S. So this has the same sensor as the Nikon D90. I started making YouTube videos with with the D90 a long time ago, and with the video mode I have a lot of experience with this sensor. The D300S is the way to go with these because the D90 has the failing shutter. This is a fully different type of light here, but the thing that I've always loved about this sensor is the green handling. The green's super pop, especially in the low quality video mode. So there's something special about this sensor in green. I love it just for that, and these can be had pretty cheap. I think you can get these like $100 or less. Do not go for the D90. The D90 will fail. So get the D300S, same sensor, but better camera. And we move on to the Olympus E620. So I have both bookends. The first, removable camera, removable lens, DSLR from Olympus, and the last. The E620 looks nice. It has some bugs in it. So the build quality isn't great. Definitely seemed to go downhill over the years. But overall, the image quality is basically what you'd expect from a nice Olympus. So yeah, I wouldn't pay a ton for this, but the image quality is nice. And if you have 4/3 lenses, yeah, you'd probably want one of these in your collection. And then we move on to micro 4/3. So this is the GH1, legendary GH1, where Panasonic started going full out on video features, and people started hacking the video. There's something, so I know a lot about this camera. I shot a lot with this camera. It handles low light terrible. There's all sorts of patchiness, but there's something more magical about the way that this renders compared to all of the rest of the GH series. So I will always be a fan of the GH1 and the hack GH1. If you use it at low ISOs, it's going to look great. If you want to shoot in low light, don't. It looks terrible. The GH2 improved upon that. Much better video mode. Kept the same interesting aspect ratio for the sensor, so you can shoot 16:9 and get like a 1.8 crop. I love the GH2. GH2 is a classic, but you can see here it doesn't, you know, there's some things lost where it can't handle the full dynamic range that some of the other cameras can handle. But it's for the video mode in 2010, this was king. So I will always love the GH2 and the size. The size of these of the GH1 and GH2 are amazing. 2011, we moved to the Nikon P7100. Now this is what I would expect a Canon PowerShot to look like. The sharpness of this lens is amazing. This is my favorite of the Nikon compact cameras. You cannot go wrong here as long as there's no issues. Like everything here is perfect for a tiny camera. It's small, light, easy to use, and a camera you can always take with you. Just, I mean, the image quality here is absolutely fantastic. It's like the fact that these haven't shot up in price blows my mind compared to the Canons, because though it doesn't have a flippy screen, way better than all the Canons. We go to, I'm very lucky to have on this. This is a Nikon Coolpix A. This is basically a D7200 sensor and a tiny camera with an 18mm lens. And the lens is fantastically sharp. It handles everything great. The color here is great. This is, I mean, we're fully modern here. If you like the 18mm look, you're not going to find a more compact, better looking image than the Coolpix A. So that's the big caveat there. You have to like a very wide angle lens. Okay, we move on to the first of the Sony Next series, where the color science started getting back on track, and we go low light here. So, you know, we're in 2011, sensors are a lot more improved, and we can actually shoot like ISO 1600, ISO 3200, and get very little noise. So the same lens in the night and the day, and I mean, looks great. You have a great looking image. Small camera, you have a viewfinder accessory, hard to go wrong here. If you get one cheap, or you have one, fully competes and fully usable as a modern camera today. We go to the Fuji X10. This is my favorite compact camera, and I had two of them. One of them died. This one died. As you can see, this one's blurry, this one's sharp. I love the rendering here. We're all in CMOS now, I believe. Fully CMOS on all the camera makes. I could be wrong, we'll keep going through them, but I love the size, I love the viewfinder tunnel. It's an easy to use camera. I love the manual operation of the lens. Fantastic camera as long as it doesn't break. And the switch breaks, which is what happened on my second one. The switch broke, no longer turned on, and it was having some aperture issues. So well worth having two. The prices on these are crazy. I wouldn't say it's worth the $400, $500 that they charge, but again, there's not really anything else new that competes with that. This, you take the sensor of the Fuji X10, you put it in a bridge camera. These are super cheap. The image quality is fantastically insane on this, so if you don't mind the bridge camera style, 100% love this camera too. This is the Fuji XS1. And again, the same 2/3 inch sensor, but with a huge zoom range. This is a way underrated camera. You can get these pretty cheap. It's just that people don't like bridge cameras. So I love this camera. I love the way that it renders everything. This is a quality Fuji camera. Highly recommended. Move on to the Canon 5D Mark III. And this reminds me a lot of the D700. It's doing everything exactly clinically as you would expect, and not anymore. You get a lot of detail. I don't feel anything from it. It's super clinical like the D700. You could interchange the D700 and the 5D Mark III, and I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. This is a very hard condition. It's not like some of the other lighting conditions. This is early morning sun blasting in highlight and darkness. I mean, everything's rendered just fine, but this is a totally normal modern image. And we move on to the EOS M. EOS M is tiny, it can shoot RAW with the hack, and it has a image quality similar to the Canon 7D. I think the lens I was using on this was the 22mm EFM. If I was using a sharper lens, you'd get sharper results, but it has slightly more magic than the 5D Mark III to me. So there's something special about these Canon crop sensors that the EOS M and the 7D have that I don't feel like the 5D Mark III has. But yeah, as long as you hack this one, highly recommended. It's annoying to use because it's slippery as a bar of soap, and it does not have a screen that folds out, but it can take amazing pictures. Okay, the G1X. So very good clinical image here. It's very sharp. It's a larger than 4/3 sensor, I believe, just slightly larger than a 4/3 sensor. Lenses, everything's nice. There's nothing that pops out to me as like, oh, this is amazing. It's super nice. I still like the Fuji colors better in a compact camera now. So I wish this was more magical to me, but it's not. It's totally fine. Go to the Panasonic GH3. Incremental improvements on all fronts except for now the sensor is just this aspect ratio and not bigger and widescreen, which is very sad for video. So from this point forward, only the GH5S had the larger sensor. Again, I wish Panasonic fixed that, but everything here is a slight improvement over the GH2, and the size of the camera is bigger, which I don't like. The batteries I do like in these cameras, but I miss the size of the GH1 and GH2 because it matches the smaller lenses and the portability of those cameras. We have one of the penultimate Canon 1DC. Penultimate to me is, in terms of its video mode, it's got this interesting 4K video mode. I think it was Canon's first 4K camera, and these were like $15,000 when they came out. I love the images that come out of this for the video mode. For the video mode alone, 100% works today if you can get used to the awful ergonomics. Photos are excellent. There is something here that the 5D Mark III does not have. This has a little bit more pop. Similar lighting circumstance to the 5D Mark III image, but there's more detail here. It's annoyingly big, but yeah, this is an excellent camera. You can get this or the 1DX, give you the same image quality without the video mode. Move on to the Olympus E-1. Totally fine here. It's very similar to like the GH4, maybe a little bit better than the GH4. Yeah, again, super clinical image to me. There's nothing that super pops out here. It's just, it works. It's clean, it gets the job done. Not really exciting at all. This is the image that started out the whole series. So I took this one on the tiny LF1. This is an amazing little Panasonic camera, and this gave me the feeling of dreary, abandoned. Just the quality from this camera. People hate the viewfinder, but hey, it has a viewfinder and it's still tiny. Super zoom, the lens isn't the sharpest in the world, but it's absolutely sharp enough to take great photos and still fit in your pocket. So, this is a highly recommended camera for me, and probably the most likely for me to be carrying around at any time. Move to the Nikon P7800. Now, this is bigger than the P7100. These are harder to get than the P7100s. Everything's better in a way. It has an EVF now, flip out screen, higher resolution, but I don't know. There's more issues with like the functionality here. It's not as simple as the P7100, so I would still recommend the P7100, but the images are better out of the P7800, I think. Both are great cameras. I would still recommend the P7100 over the P7800. Move on to the S3500. This was my mom's last digital camera before she got a cell phone. I was expecting this to be much worse because it's tiny. In ways, it reminds me a lot of the Nikon from 2002. Just in the way that it's rendering here. There's, I mean, very JPEG-y, but it's totally okay as a tiny camera. I like the LF1 a lot more, but if this is your only option and you get it cheap, I would not pay a lot of money for these. It does work. Fuji X-E2. We have an S35 sensor now. Great Fuji colors. This is on the little 27mm pancake. This is a fun camera to use. I'd recommend this combo to anyone, and it fully holds up in a modern standard. It's a great image, and we're just making little tweaks on the modern formula now to make things slightly improved. We have the highest resolution whole kit and caboodle here, the Nikon D810, 36 megapixels, and it handles it very nicely. Probably for landscapes, you can get better, but I mean, do you really need a whole lot more than 36 megapixels in a full frame Nikon F mount? Probably not. I'm sure the D850 is better, but with processing, this looks great. It's, Nikon's on top of their game here with the D810. It's more magical. I definitely like this over the 5D Mark III, and it's just a great camera. S9600. This has the same problem as the FZ1, where and this camera was absolutely perfect because my grandma had it and she maybe used it 50 times, but the super zoom on the side, it's got this blur at different focal lengths, it's JPEG only, and it looks gross. So I don't recommend this. I really don't like this camera at all. And because of the lens issue, and I know it's never been dropped, I basically have it all perfect new in box. No, please don't, no. We moved on to the GH4. The GH4 was the first 4K Panasonic camera, and it did an extra crop for that, and it will always be remembered for that, but it's fine for taking photos. It's not great though. It can be better than this, but I don't know why it captured it so bleak. It's fine. There are better cameras. I wouldn't buy this for any particular reason. Now it's been, you can get different images out of older cameras and better images out of newer cameras. So this will just be relegated to time and history. This is a Samsung NX1. I don't know, this was Samsung's premier top of the line camera, and I was using a cheaper lens adapted to it and not their cameras. This camera is amazing still. The detail here is fantastic. It reminds me a lot of the 7D, except better. The ergonomics of the Samsung camera were great, but like what Samsung does, they just gave up and killed the whole camera division, which they could have been the best. They could have gone onto this and made more cameras, but they decided to just copy Apple and make terrible iPhone clones. So thanks Samsung for giving up on another dream like removable batteries. But this camera, highly recommended for the image quality. This is the Fuji X30. This is the last of the 2/3 inch sensors. It has an EVF now. I think the image quality is great. It's better than the X10, but I still like the X10 just for the more analog experience, but this has the same mojo that the X10 has. It has that Fuji, I enjoy the Fuji colors more, at least in modern cameras. The Fuji still has, more of a pop to it than all of the other cameras that basically look the same now. So this is another great option if you can find one working and cheap. I enjoy mine. It's a Nikon D7200. basically the same sensor, Coolpix A, or I think that might have been a D7000 sensor. But, so this is going to depend on the types of lenses you put on it, but you can get excellent image quality out of this camera as a crop censored camera. Fully modern. I'm not going to say lifeless on this, but you have lots of options to get this same image quality. We have the Panasonic G5 HS. This is your last one that has a 1.8 crop sensor, my favorite from Panasonic. This does low lights better, and Panasonic says they don't need that anymore with their newer sensors, which is probably true. I miss the wider aspect ratio in video mode on these. This is a great camera still. It's better than the GH4, better than the GH3 in image quality. Each time they went up in image quality, so nothing to fault there. It's older now, so you know, typically you just get the newer one to get the slightly better image quality. This is the GX9, very similar to the GH5S. The GH5S is going to be better in low light. During the day though, they're going to look pretty much identical and the same. The GX9 is nice and small. It has a nice tiltable viewfinder, and you have micro four thirds lenses. This is a great camera that can almost fit in your pocket with a pancake. This is the Nikon P1000 Ultra Super Zoom. The lens is blurry compared to others, but if you want to zoom into something that's 20 miles away, this is the camera, or the new P1100, which is exactly the same camera, released 7 years later. It's recommended for that. So photos is not going to be so great. You could use this for birding, cleaning it up, clean up the images a bit, but it's always going to be, you know, a bit soft, just because it's like a huge zoom on a tiny sensor, and that's just the physics of getting that image. If you get it cheap, totally worth it. If you need to shoot something that's long ways away, for this scenario, wrong camera, but I wanted to compare it. Moving to mirrorless with Nikon here with the Z6, nice 24 megapixel sensor. It's shared with the next 3 cameras, I believe. Better image quality than the older full frame cameras, I believe. I've gotten some great images out of this camera. Z6 is great. The newer cameras are going to be a sharper version of this and have better AF and other features, but still today, this will hold up just fine. Move on to the Panasonic S1. So this is an alternate version of the Z6 sensor. This doesn't have an anti-aliasing filter on it. Fully 100% modern here still. It was going to hold up. Nobody's going to be able to tell the difference between this and something else. High resolution, great dynamic range. I love the huge bulkiness of the camera. It has a nice battery, and it can shoot great video too. This is the Panasonic S1H, same thing, but now it's got more of a blur, so you don't get moire for video. It has some exclusive video features. It's only the S1H, possibly their best looking video image to date still. Hopefully they update this with a sequel. The S1 II is going to be a better option for you today, but you know, 6 years ago, this is top of the line and still provides a great image today, like the Canon 1DC. GH6. GH6 definitely looks better now, and it looks basically like an S1 at this point. So a smaller crop sensor S1. You have the sensor shake version that can give you up to 100 megapixel image. You know, it looks great, but it lost a little bit of soul here. I don't know. It's totally fine. I wish I had a GH7 just to add on, just to say that I did. It doesn't, I felt more from the GH1 than the GH6, but the GH6, I mean, technically is better in every single way. So, hey. Okay, we move on to the 2023 Fuji X-S20. shot on a little longer lens. It's interesting how Fuji handles this. You can see compared why I kept this and didn't shoot it again. You can see the highlight blowout here, where it's trying to keep the shadows inside the house. The highlight blowout here is much nicer than those old Sonys in the 2000s. It looks much more natural. You could underexpose this and then keep the sky in range, but it's interesting that Fuji would meter this way, and it's, you know, due to the lens. I like this a lot. This camera takes some great high detailed images. It reminds me of a better version again of the 7D. And I think the 7D could actually basically get this same exact image. So whether or not it's worth 10 times the price, that's going to be up to you. The video features on this are fantastic though. So I got this basically for video, and images on it and the size. It's a great all-around package, and compared to other cameras, it's a great price too. We have the DJI Pocket 3, which has gone up in price, but when I got it when it was new, it was a few $100s less, I think. It's very wide angle here, but it keeps everything. So you got the sky, the ground, the shadows. It looks very processed though, like a cell phone in a way. It does the job, it gets the image. It's totally fine, I would say totally fine. That's what I'm using for the B-roll on all the other cameras except for this one. Yeah, that's a modern camera. It's a processed modern camera that looks like a smartphone. Move on to the ZV-E1. So basically this is the FX3 A7S III sensor. This is 12 megapixels, low light. The FX6 uses a version of this sensor, except this has a little, it doesn't have the ND ability of the FX6, but it's in a nice small package. And you know, I like this sensor. It's a good sensor. You can adapt to E. I wish all the full frame cameras were just E-mount so you could share lenses, but I'm glad that Sony has made this mount so available for so long that, you know, everything older adapts to E so easily. There's nothing that stands out to this image, or like it's the hardest light from the morning. It's absolutely okay. Man, I don't really have a lot to say about it. I mean, this is a camera that's made for video, not for images, but here's your 12 megapixel image from that same sensor. And finally, we have the 2025 Campsnap. I've taken this picture, I don't know, like 10 times trying to get it, and I finally settled on one of the vintage profiles to get it looking most natural. This does not look like a vintage Digicam. It looks awful in pretty much every single way. This is 2025. Let's go all the way back and see if we can go, where does it look just as bad? So 1998 Pro 70 looks better. 1999 2500L sort of. I don't know. It's, where does it look that bad? It's hard. Let me go back to 2025. Nothing. I mean, the sharpening here is gross. None of the other cameras, even going all the way back, have this amount of sharpening that's you can't dial out. Whoever wanted that, you should be ashamed of yourself. It's like if you forced Campsnap to put that in there, just take out the sharpening and then let people do their own sharpening and upscaling. It just, yeah, if you're gonna give this to a kid, it's fine, but it's gross otherwise. It's just gross. Maybe if you make it small, but if this camera is making Instagram photos, then you can definitely use anything else to make an Instagram photo. If you can do that, then you can get interesting photos from like a D600L or like even that. I mean, you could go way back into, you could go back in the 90s essentially and get the same image quality, but better. I don't know. There's something really unappealing about making a camera that takes images that bad. Really unappealing. But hey, it does have dynamic range. I think it could look better though if they just turned off the sharpening, all the fake sharpening, and then actually have something good. 92 cameras, and I think the question that, if anyone's actually going to ask a question, is which one do you like the most? That's almost an impossible question. Each of them have different strengths and weaknesses. I guess the Sigma SD9 surprised me the most, followed by the Olympus 5060. I will say though, if you're going to get a Campsnap, you want a small digital camera, don't get a Campsnap, get a Olympus 5060 instead for like half the price on eBay, and you're going to have a lot more fun with that and get better images, as long as it doesn't die on you. Anything else I could say? Not really. If there's any other questions, I'll try to help out in the comments. If you're still here, that's amazing. I hope that you found something interesting in this comparison. Probably not. Probably complaints, but I tried. I think it was literally like 8 months of trying to get cameras, taking the picture, repeating pictures if they didn't work. There's a lot of technical barriers on this, trying to get the best image possible for each camera. So hopefully my goal is that I represented each camera fairly. So without any bias on each one, except for the Campsnap. That just can't take good pictures. But anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.